We say greetings and welcome to our virtual community, Facebook, and those who are following on our YouTube channel. Welcome to the Monterey Center for Spiritual Living. We are delighted that you have selected our spiritual community for your spiritual empowerment. For our Facebook viewers, we invite you to please like, comment, and share, and follow our page. And for our YouTube channel viewers, please subscribe, like, and share our page. It is because of you, our followers and our subscribers, that we are able to grow and expand this message of science of mind and ancient wisdom throughout the world. Thank you for your participation and your attendance. Last Monday, when I was leaving out of my apartment complex, there was a new gardener that had showed up. And he had this big smile on his face. And usually, I will acknowledge the other gardeners if they're out there, but I try and get my car out of there before they do the cut and blow. So anyway, this guy walks up and he, as I was walking out, he greeted me with this big smile and he says, "I'm new, first day." And I go, "Wow, welcome, thank you." And what that brought to me was, here is a demonstration of answered prayer. Because in my prayer work and in my treatment work, I often include the phrase right livelihood. And it's not a part of outlining. When we say right livelihood, we're opening up the universe to provide for whatever is right and perfect for us in any particular moment in time. And right livelihood does include right employment, right housing, all of those things. And so I just thought of that. I go, here's an answer, here's a demonstration to an answered prayer, someone that I don't know, had never met before. But what really inspired me was his enthusiasm and his joy for being his first day. And I thought, wow, if I could just remember that enthusiasm and that excitement in my own life and the joy for all of the first day experiences that I have, what a wonderful and much more marvelous life I would enjoy. Today we're beginning our October theme, Playing with Paradox. Robert Ringer says this: question everything, even if it represents generations of conventional wisdom. And I thought back for a moment on my daughters when they reached the even before they reached the teenage years. But those of you who may be parents or have nieces and nephews or your little ones around you, or may have even been in education, you'll know that there's a point where they start to question everything. I think, what is it? The 2-year-olds are the no. They're in the no stage. And I've forgotten what year that becomes the why, but the why starts to erupt. And so this is what Robert Ringer is suggesting to us, is that we question everything, even those traditionally held thoughts and beliefs. And by doing this, we ask the question, what if there's a way to embrace the world's contradictory ideas, beliefs, thoughts, and perspectives, instead of having to pick sides? What if we could embrace those seeming opposites and see that there is room for everything and everyone in this vast universe, rather than having to pick sides? Now, I'm not saying release our own boundaries of what for us works in our own personal life, of what is our moral compass, if you will. I think that's the term that I'm looking for. By embracing those contradictory ideas, we develop our paradox mind, which is the ability to hold multiple opposite ideas simultaneously and find solutions to our own and to the world's most significant problems. So the paradox is inviting us to hold multiple ideas simultaneously, not having to choose one or the other as being right or wrong, but to hold them and to see where we can find solutions. And so our topic this morning is the paradox mindset. And I added a tagline on the genius of the and. So we're looking at a both and situation. Paradoxes are a natural part of life. The more we embrace the truth, the more we find solutions to major problems we face in our individual lives and in the communities around the world. Embracing paradoxes, we find every answer leads to more questions, and that there is no one right way to look at anything. Instead, we open ourselves up. And tying this into science of mind, Ernest Holmes reminds us to remain open at the top. And this means the ability to hold many ideas and perspectives at once and generally embrace the paradoxical mindset that lives within us. And he says this in the book, Living Without Fear. The riddle of the universe is a paradox. The question is its own answer. For the mind that asks the question is also the mind that answers it. The mind that asks the question is also the mind that answers it. Paradox thinking is a natural part of our teachings of science of mind because we believe in the oneness, even while there is suffering and struggle in the world. We believe that the infinite and the finite are one and the same, and that our mind is an individualized expression of the one mind. We often say that there is one life, and that we each are individualized expressions of that life, meaning that we are unique, one-of-a-kind, unrepeatable expressions of source. And so beliefs require a paradoxical mindset, the ability to hold two things simultaneously that apparently contradict each other. And so I looked up the word paradox, and paradox comes from the Greek para, meaning contrary to, and doxa, meaning opinion. The Latin term paradoxa means seemingly absurd but true. Seemingly absurd but true. And so some examples of this are light and dark are seeming opposites, and yet one cannot exist without the other. You have to spend money to make money. Sometimes we say that sarcastically, but when we look at it especially from a business standpoint, and I'm speaking specifically of spiritual communities, because people tend to forget that we are a business operating as a spiritual community. And so there are functions that require spending money in order to make money. And when we're looking at our budgets and we're looking at our spending plans and we're looking at having to go into our reserves, we ask the question, well, if I keep spending money and I'm not bringing in the equivalent amount of money or more than I'm spending, where do I draw the line? So there's a seeming opposite there. There's a paradox where we hold this idea in mind that I have to spend money. I have to generate through my advertising and promotions to attract people that are seeking the product. And the product that we offer is spiritual living, spirituality, learning to live life as an expression of the divine. And we provide tools to support people in living that life that is affirming and that is exciting and enlightening. Another example of this is if you don't risk anything, then you risk everything. If you don't risk anything, you risk everything. Another expression is less is more. And I'm certainly finding that to be true in my own life as I start to look at ways that I can minimize and release those things that are no longer serving me. And the biggest struggle for me is to let go of sentimental attachments. I'm getting better at it. But it can be a hard road to travel sometimes. And then the other example is God is consciousness and matter simultaneously. And there are others that you may think of that I have not mentioned. Here's a new thought or a new idea for you. The human mind is designed for either or thinking. Sometimes in our tradition, in New Thought and in Science of Mind, we want to be more spiritual than human, forgetting that we are human beings living the spiritual experience. And so as we overcorrect, if you will, or we lean more to one side than the other, we tend to lean more to the spiritual side and ignore what is happening around us. The human mind is designed for either or thinking. This evolutionary design was incredibly useful for our ancestors because it allowed them to quickly tell if movement out of the corner of their eye was the wind blowing the leaves or a tiger ready to pounce. Think about that. Think about those times in our lives where we're going along and we'll hear or we'll feel or we'll sense something that says, go this direction or go that direction. And when we follow that inner guidance, when we follow that inner compass, we can look back and say, that was a right decision, that was a right choice, because had I not followed that, I would have gone another direction and would have wound up with a different experience that may not have been as affirming and uplifting to my life as following my intuition. Both and thinking is necessary to solve the challenges we face in society and the world. This is an invitation for us to shift from black and white linear thinking and binary terms like right and wrong and open ourselves to a paradox mindset. And so what is this paradox mindset again? It is the ability to simultaneously hold and consider two seemingly opposite ideas. Living our Science of Mind teaching requires a paradox mindset. We're consistently pulled in two seemingly opposite directions of seeing all as oneness while also being confronted with the suffering and brokenness of the world. The paradox mindset allows us to simultaneously hold both ideas in our minds without needing to solve a problem. We're not seeking to solve a problem, although the solution may arrive out of our holding those seemingly opposite ideas. Embracing the paradox, we realize that there is no problem to be solved, only the truth to be revealed, as Dr. Holmes tells us in our Science of Mind teaching. And I offer this example that I found on the internet of intentionally breaking an example of a paradox. And this is it's called the blank page paradox. A lot of words to string together. Many of our official documents will print blank pages to accommodate formatting concerns. To ensure that readers don't think that they've received a defective publication, the blank page will often include the phrase, "This page has been intentionally left blank," providing the page with text that annihilates its status as a blank page. Think about that for a moment. I remember when I was first beginning to practice meditation, and someone said, "We're going to engage in a silent meditation," and yet there was music in the background. So the silent meditation is where we be at one with our own thoughts. We be at one with our own inner guidance without any artificial stimuli. Although it is nice occasionally I find for myself to have music as a background, or I don't do words for meditation, but it's music as a background. In relation to the paradox mindset, Ernest Holmes writes this in Discover a Richer Life. What we must avoid, however, is the confusion that arises from a belief in final revelations, from the belief that truth is at last discovered, or that some one person or some one system of thought has delivered the last word. There are no finalities in any science, in any philosophy, or any religion. There are no finalities in any science, any philosophy, or any religion. And this brings us back to the expression that we often hear attributed to Dr. Holmes, and that is to be open at the top, meaning there are no finalities. We're always available to learn something new, to experience something new, to engage in a new idea and a new thought. Another aspect of paradoxical thinking is Janusian thinking. Janusian, Janasian thinking. Psychiatrist Albert Rothenberg coined this term to describe the paradox mindset, named for Janus, the Roman god of transitions, duality, time beginnings and endings, gates and doorways. The Roman god Janus was the one who was responsible for transitions, duality, time, beginnings and endings, gates and doorways. Janusian thinking is the practice of actively conceiving and using multiple opposite or antithetical thoughts or constructions simultaneously to solve a problem. So it's using a lot of stuff, a lot of thoughts, a lot of modalities to solve a problem. When we come up against a challenge, an obstacle, or a situation, our instinct is to push against it. Janusian thinking suggests that rather than finding the one solution, we open ourselves to multiple possibilities and ways of thinking. It calls for us to shift from our limited world perspective to take in ideas, views, and opinions that we have never considered before. And I've shared this with you before, something that emerged out of our summer conference at Asilomar this year was a reminder that when we are facing a world condition or a world situation, and I will use something that was uppermost in all of the media, and that was the recent government shutdown and all of the drama that was connected with that. If we push against that, if we resist whatever it is, if we form our opinions about one political party or the other, we're pushing and we're resisting. What our philosophy, what the science of mind teaches is that we look at that seemingly discordant situation face on, and we look through it and see the possibilities for resolution. And this is what paradox thinking invites us to do. It calls us to shift from our limited world perspective to take in ideas, views, and opinions that we have never considered before. Ernest Holmes offers this from the book Freedom from Stress. We need to develop a good-natured flexibility. Nature demands this. Where if the tree did not bend with the wind, it would break. How often have we heard that? If a tree did not bend with the wind, it would break. We are apt to hold our thought so static that it finally becomes a habit which destroys our own mental happiness, but also the spiritual influx. So what Holmes is telling us here is that nature demands that we be flexible. And he writes a lot about this. In fact, in the textbook, there are 2 chapters that are devoted to this, the 2 chapters on immortality. And I invite you to read those if you have a copy of the Science of Mind textbook, the chapters on immortality. And he talks a lot about nature And one of the phrases that stands out for me is that nature will only let us stay in any one place for too long. We stay here long enough to gain the experience that is required for the continuing journey called life. If we were to stay in any one place too long, we would become too rigid, too fixed, and too set in our ways for the journey. So it's a call to be flexible, to be open at the top, to recognize that our human mind is constructed for duality thinking and for holding more than one idea, not duality, but for holding more than one idea at a time. And so it's an invitation for us to approach this from a both and experience. And so as I conclude this morning, offer these reminders. We must embrace the inevitable paradoxes of life if we are to create a world that works for everyone, which is the vision and mission of our Centers for Spiritual Living, to create a world that works for everyone, and I add, exactly where they are. By opening ourselves to alternative solutions, perspectives, beliefs, and ideas, we're not just finding our way into the world where win-win is enough, we're also striving to find the win-win. When we open to multiple opposites and contradictory ideas, being true simultaneously, we find the possibilities and solutions that we had never imagined possible. By embracing Januism thinking to solve our world's problems, we find a way to create a world that works for all people, not just a small group. And this closing quote from Ernest Holmes in the book Living Without Fear. The riddle of the universe is a paradox. The universe is its own answer, but the mind that asks the question is also the mind that answers it. I invite us now to say our weekly affirmation together. I embrace a paradoxical mindset in everything that I do. And now let us pray together. I invite you to just allow yourself to relax. Allow the eyes to close if it's comfortable for you. Just take a moment to be in touch with the breath. Being mindful of the in-breath and the out-breath. How easily one follows the other without any effort on our own. And what I know to be true is that there is only one life. That life is God's life. That life is perfect. And that life is my life now. And it is the life of everyone and every being. It is the life of all things. And when I say that there is only one life, I think of the allness of God, the inclusivity of God, the inclusivity of Source, this universal presence. Whatever the word is that resonates with you for the idea of Source, recognize that that is the place where all life begins, all life exists. It has no ending. It has no beginning. It is one continuous source of strength, one continuous source of the evolution of consciousness. And so as we gather in this time and place, I know that our lives have been uplifted and that our consciousness has been expanded as we remember the grandest idea that exists in the mind of God is the idea of right livelihood, the idea of right relationships, the idea of right companionship, the idea of right housing, the idea of living in harmony, the idea of being at one with all that there is. And so I bless all places where truth is being taught. I bless all paths that lead to the source. And I know that as my life is forever and ever expanding, the life of all around me is forever and ever expanding, and that this is true for the entire universe. For those prayer requests that remain in the recess of our hearts, I know that the answer is yes and amen. Those prayers that are spoken in confidence to a spiritual counselor, to a therapist, to a friend, however they are uttered, I'm knowing that the answer is yes. And so for this and so much more, I am eternally grateful, and I release this word, I release this treatment back into that law which always says yes. And I just allow it to be so. And I invite you to affirm this with me as we say, and so it is. I want to take this opportunity to remind, especially those who are here in the center, that if you do have a prayer request, we have a prayer chest that you can write out your request and leave it in there. And the prayer team, the ministers and the practitioners will pray with you and pray for you. There's also an opportunity, if you choose to meet with a licensed practitioner for spiritual guidance and spiritual support. For those who are viewing, we have on our website, we have an opportunity for you to submit a confidential prayer request for us to support you. And we also have our Centers for Spiritual Living World Ministry of Prayer. That information is on our website, and also Silent Unity. We partner with Silent Unity in prayer support. So there are all sorts of support networks for you to bring forward whatever your request is. And I always encourage people to bring joyful requests, as well as those requests that are requiring support. Because when we celebrate the joy, it expands more prosperity, more gratitude, and more good in our life. And now it is time for us to share in the circulation of the goodness of life. And this is the time that we prepare our offerings. For those of you who are here in the center, we have a donation box that is on the glass table in the hospitality area. And now let us say together our affirmation of abundance. I recognize the presence of God within as the source of my abundance. Out of my abundance consciousness flows everything I could desire in life. With gratitude and thanksgiving, I now participate in the flow of uninterrupted abundance. This prosperous evidence, abundance consciousness. And so once again, thank you for those who mail in their donations to our center, and the address is on our screen. Those who are donating through text to give, and that number is on our screen. And also we have an online portal through our website for you to make a donation to our center. So we invite you to use either of those or all of those. And we thank you for your ongoing support of the center. And I just want to remind our viewing community in Facebook and in YouTube that we do have opportunities for you to join us for some deeper study, and that is through our spiritual living circles, which meets on the fourth Sunday of every month following our celebration service. So it would be at right around 11:45 Pacific, and you can view on the YouTube channel. You can view on our Zoom, the center Zoom channel, and you can find that on our webpage. And so with that, I would like to say good morning, because I know there's morning someplace on the planet, to our virtual community in Facebook and YouTube. Thank you for joining us, and we invite you to return next Sunday, continuing our October theme, Playing with Paradox. And our talk will be getting comfortable with discomfort. getting comfortable with discomfort. So we say thank you and God bless you, and we will see you the next time you join us.